This is the AR custom install video that I've been planning to make for a long time, where we get into the how-to. This is exactly how you would do it from start to finish. These are all the pieces you get when you order a custom install. I always tell you, we get you 90% of the way there, and you've got to get it the rest of the way done. Well, as you can see in this, we got you probably a little closer to 95%. This comes with everything you need to have the legitimate wall mount setup from start to finish. So this is the diagram of all the dimensions that we used in my project. Now keep in mind, this doesn't have to be exact, but it gives you a reference point. You can come back and refer to this as you're doing the install, maybe screenshot this and print it out while you're working. The pre-post piping may seem daunting, but I promise you, it's much easier than you think. All you have to do is cut, add the collar and seal, and screw it together. So here Mike is preparing the water inlet for the system. This is 27¼ inches off the ground in my setup. Keep in mind that your water source may be at a different location. That's going to be okay. You can work around that. You just have to plan for it ahead of time. We provide you with enough piping that you can make adjustments if you needed to do the inlet to the system a little further away. So because I did the curdy behind here in tile, I needed a spacer and adapter as shown because the pipe didn't stick out far enough from the wall, or the female connection to the wall didn't stick out enough. So we use this. You may or may not need this. But like most threaded connections, make sure to use lots of tape, and that'll hopefully help you with a leak-free connection. With the pre-post elbow threaded in, we'll begin laying out the CR spotless and the rest of the piping. You can see here Mike is shortening the bent pipe so that the CR spotless sits a little closer to the ground. You can cut this pipe to adjust sizing to make it fit so that you can put the CR at the height you're looking for. In my particular setup, the top of the CR spotless bracket is 44¾ from the ground. The CR spotless connects to the piping with ball valves. You can see Mike screwing in here. These allow you to change the flow of the water around the CR spotless if you don't need DI water. So you could divert and use regular water, regular tap water, or divert the water flow by turning off the first valve, opening the other two on the inlet and outlet of the CR in order to get DI or deionized water coming through your system. We recommend laying the piping on the ground first to get an idea where it goes. Then you can make your cuts and piece the piping together. When cutting the pipe, make sure you deburr the edges so the seal doesn't get damaged. You can wait to fully tighten down the pre-post unions once you get the pipe cut to the correct lengths. So this particular CR spotless came with a PVC adapter because the inlet was a different size than the 3/4 inch NPT national pipe thread that we traditionally use. In this particular version of the CR spotless, you'd need to leave those little PVC adapters in place. Most of the time, depending on your unit, the valves will screw directly into the inlet and the outlet of the CR spotless. You can tell by just looking at it, just observing it. As you're working through, make sure you're checking level and square. You want to make sure the system looks good from when you're standing back looking at it. So level, including all the pipes, you want to make sure all the things you're mounting to the wall are level as well as piping. In my setup, I put a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood behind so I'd have a backer. You may have put stringers, or you may have put some 2x4s or 2x6s, 2x10s behind the wall. But mine is a solid wall, so this allows me to place everything exactly where I want. If you have studs, you probably want to open up the wall and put a stringer or put some more wood in place. That way you can mount all of your particular parts and pieces exactly where you want them. Once you've installed the main housing of the CR spotless, we can now tighten down previous unions and valves. Right here, we're checking to make sure we cut the pipe to the correct length. Because the pipe fits inside the union slightly, you need to account for that when making your cuts. This last piece here is where the stainless inlet hose to the pressure washer will connect. Since I hadn't done a custom install with the AR630 yet, I wasn't sure how deep shelf I would need, so we ordered a 10 inch, a 12 inch to see which would work best. We ended up staying with the standard 8 inch shelf. I felt like it looked the best and was the most sturdy, didn't protrude as far off the wall, so that's what we decided to use. I would suggest that you do a dedicated 20 amp circuit. This particular AR, the 630, absolutely needs a 20 amp. It draws 19 amps at peak. This outlet is 76.5 inches from the ground and 14.25 from the center line of the system. Again, you have leeway here, but this is what we chose to do based on our visual inspection as we're mocking up and deciding where things need to go. To have a clean install, I always cut the power cord shorter. The first time I did it, jacked it up. Now, this is a modification. I guess you could call this you're avoiding the warranty if the electric motor blows up on your own. So don't cut it if you're really concerned about the warranty. We actually recommend don't cut the cord as we showed it here. You'll want to cut the cord where the plug is and then reinstall the plug rather than doing it inside the unit. It's just an easier way to do it. Mike is pretty darn sophisticated, so we did it the hard way here, but the easier way to do it would be to do on the plug side. To secure the pressure washer to the shelf, you'll need to drill holes through it. First, drill a small pilot hole. Make sure you have enough room around the machine. If it touches, you'll get loud noises and vibrations. You want to make sure nothing's touching the back of the shelf, so you need to space it out enough. The 8-inch shelf doesn't have as much tolerance as a 10-inch, but you can make it fit and still have enough room to where nothing's touching. So here's my little napkin drawing on a sheet of legal pad on exactly where we put the holes. You ought to be able to, I would check your particular AR, but you ought to be able to use this as a good reference for where the holes need to be so that you could run your screws up through them and install on the bracket of the AR. This shelf is 72.5 inches from the ground, and it allows enough room for me to fit the hose reel in between the piping from the CR and the bottom of the shelf, with the hose reel being tucked up under the shelf a bit. The shelf sits on 2 mounting brackets, so just mark where you want the brackets to go. With the brackets installed, you can install the shelf and the pressure washer. The top of the hose reel mounting plate in this setup is 66 inches from the ground. Again, if you use these dimensions that I'm referring, it'll work and it'll work well. Be careful that you don't mount the hose reel too close or too tucked up. Make sure you put the handle on and double check, make sure your hand isn't going to smack the little triangle holders for the shelf. To secure the reel, just use some lag bolts. We use 3/8 lag bolts in this case. 5/16 would also work. If you're doing it in concrete, you can use some Tapcons, and I would suggest you use washers on this as well. The high pressure hose will screw directly into the reel. You want the swiveling end to go in the reel. Use the hose clamps to secure the hose to reduce stress on the threaded connection. The M22 14mm creates a quick disconnected connection, so if you ever needed a service, I like it set up this way. But this will screw directly on the outlet of the pressure washer. Do not use any tape on this connection. Your system should come with the fittings, the couplers installed, but if you need to service a coupler or change it out, this is how you would install them without a vise. The jumper hose threads directly into the swivel of the Cox reel. You also want the swiveling end to be the end that gets threaded in order to make it so you don't have to flip the hose over and over and over as you install it or try to tighten it down. When connecting the jumper hose, make sure it's not torquing or twisting the swivel off axis. This will cause the seal of the swivel to fail prematurely. You can use the provided hose clamp to secure the jumper hose where it needs to go. The last thing you'll do is mount the wand holder. We used 1/4-inch lags on this. You can install this at whatever height is comfortable for you. So as you can see, this install is, I would say, a level 8 out of 10 from a skill perspective. Obviously, Mike's skill set is much, much greater than mine. I feel confident that I could do this myself. The other thing you could use this video in reference is to send it to a plumber, an electrician, send it to a handyman service and say, hey, I want you to do this. Pretty much anybody who has some blue-collar skills can put this thing together. The key to this is we're sending it with every part and piece that you need. So you shouldn't need to buy anything else to make this function and make it look like we are showing here. Other than getting a few lags and getting a few screws to mount to your particular wall, this is fully equipped and ready to go. Hope this video was helpful to you. If you need support, hit us up, support@obsessedgarage.com. We can help you with either making a custom version of this, or if you had questions on operation, service, things like that, we're here to help. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. Go to obsessedgarage.com to purchase this system.